It'll be Sunday Fun Day when the UFC heads to Hamburg, Germany on July the 22nd, but will the main event between Mauricio Shogun Rua and Anthony Lionheart Smith be in the top 3 fights that I think you should watch this weekend? Follow me past this small little intro video and let's talk about it. I actually am sneaking Rua vs Smith into the top 3, but just barely. I've talked a lot about my allegiance with Nebraska fighters because my home state doesn't have much to cheer about. That's one reason I've got these guys in that spot, but I want to explain why they aren't higher on the list. Rua, he isn't exactly that old, but he is an aging competitor whose best fight days, in my estimation, are behind him. Essentially, I don't know exactly how I feel about the prospects of having a fairly unknown fighter knock him out in the main event of a fight card happening in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday. On the flip side, if he does beat Smith, it seems like Cormier is going to lobby to defend his light heavyweight title against Rua, which is also something that I do not need to see. Beyond that stuff, I do love the fight, the matchup. Rua is the guy who ended the Machida era. He has had extremely exciting fights in his Zuffa career, and he still possesses insane knockout power. He could finish anybody in the world with just one punch. I love Smith because he is a Nebraskan, but he is also a really exciting fighter. His last 2 wins are knockout victories over legends, you could say, in Hector Lombard and Rashad Evans, and his last loss was a fight of the night against Thiago Marreta Santos. Someone's going to sleep in this main event, but it won't be us, the fight fans. Number 2, I debated on this one a little bit. I either wanted Teixeira vs Anderson or Struve vs Tybura. The latter of those 2 fights could end up being a 15-minute slog between a couple of heavyweights who could be used to get fighters like Ngannou or Miocic a win the next time out. And the former is a fight that will either be boring as all get out, or Anderson will get violently knocked out. I'm a fan of the former, so let's go with Glover the Rainbow Teixeira versus Corey Beeston 25-8 as my number 2. Glover proved in his last outing against Misar Surkunov that he still has knockout power, and his own grappling game might be enough to offset the grinding style that Anderson usually tries to put on his opponents. Anderson, beyond just that grind, he likes to put a pace on his opponents, and perhaps because he is 10 years younger than Teixeira, he might be able to do that in this matchup. But like I said earlier, the fight is in this spot because Anderson tends to get knocked out, and when he does, it usually lands on a highlight reel. It doesn't hurt that Glover is listed as the number 3 light heavyweight in the world, and he's got them heavy hands of his. And number 1, it's a bit obscure, but when I was looking at this fight card, I couldn't take my eyes off of Nasrat Haqparast versus Mark Bonecrusher Diakaze. Maybe I should have named this list 2 must-watch fights and a hidden gem. Prior to his UFC debut, where he lost via decision to Marcin Held, Haqparast had won 8 straight fights via KO or TKO, and even in that fight against Held, he displayed a lot of power in his hands. He knocked Held down and wobbled him a couple of different times with heavy left hands. While he did get defeated mostly because of his grappling and wrestling defense, he's a super young athlete who could show a lot of improvements on Sunday. Mark Diakaze, what can I say about him? He's the main reason this fight is my number 1. Sure, Diakaze is on a 2-fight losing streak, but the first of those was against Mr. Anti-Flashing Technique himself, Drakkar Klose, and the last was against shrieking Dan Hooker. Diakaze is a wild, flashy, and dynamic striker who has also shown high-output slams and suplexes in his MMA career. He reminds me a lot of Lando Venata, and like Groovy, Bonecrusher is a fighter who is always worth giving your attention. No matter who wins this fight, one or both of these competitors are going to leave that arena with an extra $50,000. Please vote in the poll that I put right here. Tell me what rating you would give the fight card 1 to 5. 5 being the best possible fight card that could be put on a Sunday, and 1 being that you're not going to watch this thing at all, probably hang out with your family. Please click on one of the 3 videos that I put below here that have been published by MMA Mania recently. I think you're going to like it, and also I will be back on Sunday during the main card portion doing a hangout where I'll do some play-by-play and just hang out with you guys during this main card portion of UFC Hamburg. For now, guys, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later. Namaste.